Well, will we have our next tropical storm or hurricane form in the Atlantic? That's something that we're going to pay close attention to, especially for us here on the East Coast. There's a couple of things that we still have to figure out: where the storm exactly forms, the direction that it moves, the overall path it will end up taking, and other factors that will help steer that storm either closer to the US or keep it further out to sea. We're going to have more updates throughout the week, so make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. As we head through the next few days, we're going to keep a close eye on the Atlantic for sure. Here's a current look at the visible satellite over the Atlantic as of Sunday afternoon. You can see we have actually two areas of low pressure that are forming in the Atlantic right now. We have Invest 96L, which is currently in the central Atlantic. This storm's not expected to do all that much. It will likely actually fizzle out as we move into the upcoming week. However, we have Invest 97L, which is currently moving just off the coast of Africa. This will likely get its act together as we head through the next 24 to 36 hours, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put a tropical depression on this within the next day or two. So we'll keep a close eye on that. One of the factors that meteorologists like me, we look at, and folks at the National Hurricane Center, to really see a closed formation, a closed area of low pressure, to really set itself apart from other storms. And so far, Sunday afternoon, we haven't exactly seen that just yet. What we have seen is making its way in that direction, but not quite there. So we have that counterclockwise spin for the northern part of that system, and we're starting to feed in, if you look at the lower clouds, a little bit there on the southwestern corner, but just not completing all of the dots here. We're not quite connecting all the dots just yet, but it is moving in that general direction for us. So as of now, as of Sunday afternoon, well, we still are just under a 90% chance at forming over the next 7 days. That's that red polygon. And that yellow polygon, that's Invest 96L, only a 20% chance at forming over the next few days. So it will likely end up fizzling out for us. So let's talk about the direction that this will travel. Well, it will continue to push its way further off to the west and eventually moving through the central Atlantic. What the models have agreed upon, this is looking at the American forecast model, but the American model, the European model, they all are on board. And as we move through the upcoming week, that area of low pressure moving into the central Atlantic, getting its act together a little bit more, so likely forming a tropical depression and likely forming maybe even a tropical storm. If it reaches tropical storm level, it would be called Erin. That's the next name on the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season list for us. And so as you can see, this is Thursday afternoon, August 14th. There's that area of low pressure. That would likely end up being Erin. And the big question from here is, where does it go after that? Does it stay out to sea and not really cause any impacts for us here on the East Coast? Or does it take that more westerly approach and ride up the eastern seaboard? That's something that is a possibility, but is it all that likely? So we'll get to that here in just a second. So one of the things that we keep an eye on is something that's called steering currents. What pushes that storm in a more westerly track or more easterly track? And one component is an area of high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. The stronger that area of high pressure and where it's situated plays a major role. If that area of high pressure is stronger, and let's say it's, further off to the west, if it's parked a little bit closer to the central Atlantic and maybe western Atlantic, well, that area of low pressure will likely end up following that more westerly track. If it's a weaker area of high pressure and it's further off to the east, well, there's not that much in the way of steering currents now in the middle of the ocean, and naturally those systems will end up taking that more northerly track and eventually curving its way back out to the east. Now, that's just your systems there based on the ground. We also like to look at things a little bit higher up, and this really helps steer these storms. So going again using the American forecast model, we work our way through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, August 15th. There's our area of low pressure. There's our storm, and you can see there's not that much in the way of high pressure in the middle of the Atlantic. What we do see, though, and what's also important, is a ridge building in Canada as well as the eastern coast of the US. What does a ridge do? Well, it can actually block storms for us. In this case, it could block that tropical system. So as we move through the end of next week and into next weekend, where that ridge sets up and how strong it is also end up playing a critical role for us here on the eastern coast of the US. So we can see that ridge start to weaken potentially and an area of low pressure develop, an upper level low further off into Canada. One of the things about a system like this is it likely ends up pulling in that kind of a trough, and that setup likes to catch storms and actually toss them out. So if a storm like this forms and it continues that northerly track, well, that area of low pressure picks it up and actually just takes it right off into the Atlantic. And we can see something like that playing out with the American forecast model. So a lot can change because if that area of low pressure, let's say, is further off to the west, well, it might just take it and pull it into the eastern coast. So a lot that can still change with this system. I want to show you guys another way of thinking about this using ensembles. Now, an ensemble model is actually just an average, if you will, of about 30 different models. So as we play this out for you, this is using the American ensemble. We can see several different possibilities start to form. This is showing several different areas of where the center of that storm could actually end up being. Now, this is looking at the following Monday, August 18th, Tuesday, August 19th. And as you can see here, well, those storms could be anywhere from the Bahamas or all the way out in the middle of the Atlantic. So a very wide area of range still. So that's why there's still so much uncertainty with this upcoming storm. As we play this out further and further, well, that uncertainty just continues to grow. Now you can either be, off the coast of Atlantic Canada or all the way down potentially in Florida. So you can see how that uncertainty really grows. And it's not just the American model that's like that. We switch this over to the European forecast model and we see more of the same. We go through this week, that area of low pressure forms. You can already see more uncertainty with this particular model here. Where exactly does that center form? So that will also play a crucial role as we continue down the line for us there. Now, as we get into the upcoming weekend, August 16th and Sunday, August 17th, and then into the following week, you can see just about the same uncertainty as the American forecast model. Is it further off in the central Atlantic or is it all the way down into the Bahamas and through portions of Florida? So a very wide range that this system can end up taking, that path that it could end up taking. And we play this out further and further, and you can see just how much that uncertainty continues to grow. So there is a lot of components to this system. What I will say is keep an eye on your local forecast. That is going to be something that is going to be crucial, especially pinpointing that to where you live. What I will say, we'll likely end up having a tropical depression form within the next day or so, potentially even a tropical storm that will be called Aaron. I think there is a chance that we can end up getting a hurricane out of this, but again, the big question is going to be where exactly does that form? And we'll have more updates throughout the week as Aaron forms, and we have a better idea of where this will actually end up going.